We begin this morning with that highly anticipated announcement today by President Biden on student loan debt forgiveness. Multiple sources tell NBC News the president will decide to cancel $10,000 worth of student debt for those earning $125,000 or less a year. He's also planning to extend the federal student loan payment pause. That's the pandemic-era policy that is set to expire at the end of this month. Sources have also stressed no final decision has been made. We spoke to Education Secretary Miguel Cardona yesterday on Morning News Now about what the president was planning to do. Well, he refused to give any details about those plans. He said the administration was pushing to keep higher education accessible for more people around the country.
From day one, this president's been about substance, not sensationalism. Look at the track record. Look at what has been done. $32 billion in 1.5 years is more than any other administration combined. And we're going to continue with that mentality of keeping our borrowers front and center, keeping our students front and center in every decision that we make. We don't take this lightly.
NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ali Rafa joins us now with more on this. So, Ali, potentially a big day ahead for students, for grown-ups who used to be students, and, of course, for the White House. Walk us through what our sources are telling us about what we're expecting to hear today.
Good morning, Joe. Yeah, potentially a big day for a lot of people, especially President Joe Biden. Our sources are telling us that really after 2 years since making this promise to forgive student loan debt, this announcement could happen as soon as this morning. We're hearing that Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer spoke with President Biden last night on the phone and really nudged him and pushed him to bring this to the finish line. And so we expect him to return from his vacation in Rehoboth Beach back to the White House this morning and make this announcement that's expected to do a couple things. This plan would, if it actually does happen, it still hasn't been confirmed by the White House, it would forgive loans of up to $10,000 for borrowers who make less than $125,000 a year. That number has floated somewhere up to $150,000 in some predictions, but that still hasn't been confirmed. It'll also extend the federal student loan payment pause for all borrowers. That was expected to expire next week. So that really puts the timeline for President Biden to make this announcement even more at a pressing issue. Sources also say that there's really no final decision made yet, definitely stressing that it's not final. So regardless of when this plan comes out, if it does happen, it will undoubtedly help so many Americans, so many young Americans that are really struggling to make ends meet right now, Joe.
So, Ali, are Democrats going to be happy with this figure of $10,000 if that is the number? We know some had called for up to $50,000 to be wiped off the books. What's the reaction from Democrats, also from Republicans?
Yeah, so like so many political decisions, you can't really make both ends happy, both sides happy. So there will be progressive Democrats who will say that this falls short of what they wanted to see in this plan, specifically Senator Elizabeth Warren, who had called, like you said, for up to $50,000 in student loan forgiveness. Some economists also say that this could just exacerbate the severity of the inflation levels right now that are already at a 40-year high. This is something that Republicans are likely to seize on and poise themselves as the ones who could turn the economy around and be the ones who could to fix the situation in the upcoming midterm elections. And I think it's important to note also there are 45 million Americans right now that have student loans that equal nearly $2 trillion. So this would undoubtedly bring a lot of ease to those people, but it would also in the long term, according to several studies, add up to billions and billions of dollars in debt over the next decade. So a lot of controversial decision making over the next few days, not only with this decision, but also the reaction that's going to come out afterwards, Joe.
All right. Ali Rafa, thanks for kicking us off this hour. We appreciate it. Now to the results from the major round of primary elections yesterday. In New York, two top House Democrats, both veterans in Congress, were forced to compete for one seat after a bitter redistricting battle. And in Florida, Democrats chose their nominees to take on two high-profile Republican incumbents. NBC News senior political editor Mark Murray joins us now with a recap of what happened. So, Mark, let's start with a race that actually was not a primary. It was a House special election in New York's Hudson Valley. This was really the first competitive race since the Supreme Court Court overturned Roe versus Wade, and it's giving us some clues into how both parties are going to approach the midterms this fall, especially when it comes to one key issue, and that being abortion. What are the takeaways here, Mark?
Yeah, Joe, the reason why we were paying attention to this race was this is a swing district. This was a district that Barack Obama carried twice in 2008 and 2012, that Donald Trump ended up winning in 2016, and that Joe Biden narrowly won in 2020. And you ended up having the Democrat Pat Ryan ended up winning by 2 percentage points over Republican Mark Molinaro. And that pretty much suggests that what played out last night was kind of a replay of 2020. And normally in these types of special elections, Joe, when the wind is at a party's political backup, like we thought there was Republicans heading into the November midterm elections, this should be a district you should win by 5, 7, 10 points. And the fact that Republicans not only didn't win it by that margin, but ended up losing it suggests that maybe this red wave that had been building over the last several months has been reduced in size tremendously. And it wasn't just this special election. There was another special election in New York that Republicans actually ended up winning, but only by about 7 percentage points in a really ruby red congressional district. And so it does seem that after the Supreme Court decision overturning Roe versus Wade, the Democrats have some pep in their step.
All right, let's talk about primaries. In Manhattan, we had 2 veteran Democratic lawmakers competing for just one House seat. Wasn't close, as we see there. Who came out on top, Mark?
Yeah, Jerry Nadler, the longtime Democratic member of Congress, chair of a key congressional committee, ended up winning over Carolyn Maloney. This was a member versus member contest due to the redistricting map in the state that New York Democrats tried to actually create a really aggressive gerrymandering map. A court said it was unconstitutional. There was a new map, and it forced this fight between 2 really well-known Democrats, and it was Nadler who came out on top.
Let's turn to Florida's governor's race. Democrats picked Congressman Charlie Crist to take on Republican incumbent Ron DeSantis this fall. We know Crist, no stranger to the governor's mansion, having served a term before, but he was a Republican back then. Of course, DeSantis is polarizing, but has strong support from his base. So what are you watching for in this race in November?
Yeah, Joe, not only was Charlie Crist a former Republican, he was on the vice presidential shortlist for John McCain in 2008. And of course, he ended up leaving the Republican Party, ran unsuccessfully in 2014 against Rick Scott for governor, ended up losing that contest. And then he has been serving in the United States House as a Democrat. He's going to take on Ron DeSantis in what is going to be a high-profile gubernatorial race. It's going to be very, very pricey, but it's one where Republicans seem to have the slight advantage heading into November, just because Democrats have not been able to crack the code in Florida over the last decade.
And speaking of Florida, Mark, we also have the final ballot for Florida's Senate race this fall. No surprise here. Democratic Congresswoman Val Demings is the Democrats' pick to try to unseat Senator Marco Rubio. He's seeking his 3rd term. This should be a close one. I mean, what do you expect from this general election matchup?
Yeah, Joe, all Florida races have been close, but once again, Democrats have seemed to have almost a ceiling at 47, 48% in the Sunshine State. And yes, Val Demings versus Marco Rubio is going to be another marquee contest that we're going to be watching over the next 3 months. And the question is, can Demings be able to surpass that ceiling that has kept Democrats from being able to win statewide since Barack Obama's reelection in 2012?
All right. Mark Murray, a lot to talk about this morning. Thank you so much. The National Archives is offering new insight into the nature of the sensitive materials that were in the possession of former President Trump. The archives posted a letter that was sent to Trump's lawyers earlier this year after the former president turned over 700 pages of classified documents, some believed to be among the nation's most guarded secrets. That letter also warned that the Justice Department was looking into the case. NBC News Chief White House correspondent Kristen Welker has the latest.
stunning new revelations about those documents recovered from Mar-A-Lago. According to the New York Times, citing people briefed on the matter, more than 300 documents had classified markings. Some were handed over by former President Trump earlier this year. Others seized in that controversial FBI search of his home. All as the National Archives posted the letter it sent to Trump lawyers back in January after Mr. Trump had sent them 15 boxes of documents. The letter said the boxes included 100 classified documents, 700 pages in all, including up to the level of top secret. Warning there was a criminal investigation and DOJ assessment of potential damage resulting from the apparent manner in which these materials were stored. According to the letter, President Biden authorized the National Archives to reject any executive privilege claims by Mr. Trump, allowing the FBI to examine the material. Then in June, Mr. Trump turned over additional classified documents to DOJ officials. And according to the Times, 11 sets of classified documents were retrieved during the FBI search at Mar-A-Lago on August 8th. That unprecedented search of a former president's home sparking significant blowback from Republicans and Mr. Trump, who just filed a lawsuit to block review of the documents until a watchdog known as a special master is appointed. Mr. Trump blasting the DOJ investigation as politically motivated, his lawyers writing in their suit, to date, the government has failed to legitimize its historic decision to raid the home of a president who had been fully cooperative.
That was Kristen Welker reporting. We've also learned that another former Trump administration official, former National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien, testified before the January 6th committee. It happened yesterday, according to two sources familiar with the matter. The committee is expected to hold additional hearings beginning next month. A former Louisville detective has pleaded guilty to a federal conspiracy charge in the police shooting death of Breonna Taylor. Kelly Goodlett appeared in a federal courtroom in Louisville yesterday. She admitted to lying on a search warrant that led to the deadly police raid at Taylor's apartment, knowing the warrant did not have enough information connecting Taylor to criminal activity. Goodlett also admitted to later conspiring with another detective to create a cover-up after Taylor's shooting death gained national attention. Goodlett will be sentenced in November. She faces up to 5 years in prison. 3 former Louisville officers were also indicted on criminal civil rights charges in this case earlier this month. In Texas this morning, officials are assessing the damage left behind by this week's record rain and flash flooding. Governor Greg Abbott has declared a state of emergency for 23 counties to help with the cleanup. In cities like Dallas, the flooding was widespread and fatal, killing at least 1 woman. Now the storm system is heading east, putting states like Georgia and South Carolina on alert. And with that, meteorologist Michelle Grossman joins us with your morning news now. Weather, Michelle, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. Yeah, we're looking at the south still getting that soaking rains, not only today, but through Friday. So we're looking at that slow-moving boundary. We're looking at 4 million people impacted today by a flood watch. This is in the green, so still eastern Texas into Louisiana, Arkansas, also Mississippi. Looks like the bullseye for the heaviest rain today will be in portions of Louisiana into Mississippi. We do have flash flood warnings as well, where you see these red boxes. I'll show you why in just a minute, because we're looking at really heavy rainfall this morning, and that's what we're expecting throughout the afternoon hours as well. So there's that radar. You can see these really dark colors, especially where you see this flash flood warning. Lots of lightning, hearing the thunder as well, torrential downpours, but they're scattered too into parts of Texas, all the way through portions of Alabama, even into Georgia. And then tomorrow we're going to see it into the Carolinas as well. This is a setup. It's that same area of low pressure that brought all that rain to Dallas, moving very, very slowly. It's going to continue to move very slowly. It's nearly stationary. So it's pulling moisture off the Gulf as well. So we're seeing lots of rain in so many places, and it's heavy. We're looking at the potential for 6 inches in some spots. Then as we go throughout tomorrow, still moving ever so slowly. We're going to see those shower chances stretching from Texas all the way to South Carolina. Again, could see heavy rain at times, and that could lead to some flooding, even some flash flooding as we go throughout tomorrow and Friday as well. So as we go throughout time here, we're going to continue to see these chances through the southeast, and we're going to see, let's say, 1 to 3 inches of rain. That's a lot of rain on top of what they've already seen, but locally up to 3 to 5 inches. Again, where you see those reds and oranges throughout Louisiana and Mississippi, that's where we're going to see the heaviest amounts of rain. That is one major weather story. We're also looking at the heat as well. A heat advisory in portions of the Pacific Northwest, 4 million people impacted. But it's not just the Pacific Northwest. We're looking at the interior parts of California, where we're looking at temperatures into the 90s, into the triple digits, way above normal for this time of year. Portland, 94 today. That's 15 degrees above average. Look at Fresno, 105, 103 in Redding. You get the idea. It's a hot one. And the Northeast, we had a little bit of a break. It's going to be warmer today. We had the humidity yesterday, but temperatures were held down. And now we're seeing them climb once again. So by tomorrow, into the 90s, New York City, 9 degrees above average. Yes, it's August. Yes, summer is still here. 90 in D.C. That's 5 degrees above average. And that the temperatures stay warm as we go throughout the weekend as well. D.C., you're into the 90s on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, the upper 80s. Boston looking good. That's the place to be, into the 70s Saturday and Sunday. But those temperatures, the warm temperatures, stretch all the way back to St. Louis and Cincinnati, where we're looking at temperatures in the 80s. So for today's forecast, that heavy rain in the south, warming up in the northeast. And we're also, Joe, looking at strong storms in portions of the northern plains.
All right. I have family from Minnesota visiting this weekend. I'm like, I know it's late August, but bring shorts.
Exactly. But you know what? They've been so warm all summer long.
Yeah, they're kind of used to it.
They're bringing it with them,
Yeah, exactly. No relief here. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.